And good morning, everyone. Welcome to yet another Tech Talk with me as I talk about Slackbots this morning. Well, good morning. Morning for me, maybe evening for you. Tell us where you're from in the chat. Go ahead and drop in the chat where you're from, and let's get the conversation going this morning. This is, if you've ever seen my Tech Talks before, these are usually pretty interactive. I don't need my headset. I'm not listening to anything. I'd rather not have my headset on. So yeah, go ahead and drop in the chat where you're from this morning and say hello. So good morning, everyone. I am coming to you from a new place that I just moved to in the small town of what is known as Gerald, Texas. But now I am basically, you can just think north of Austin. Like I'm so far, I'm just outside of the bounds of Austin, which if you've ever watched any of my talks before, you know that I spent a lot of time in Austin. So I'm still technically there. If anyone were to ever ask me, I would just say I'm in Austin because I'm like 20 minutes away from the city. And we've got people coming in this morning. What do we've got here? We've got Bruno from Rio. We've got Cameron from Orlando. Woo! Go to Disney World for me. Raul from Mexico. Joanna, sorry, from Romania. You're gonna find. I'm not even gonna try. From Pune. Oh my goodness. This is where you learn that Mason can't read. Good morning to everyone. John from Michigan. I have family in Michigan. Got Raza from Mumbai, Joe from Kenya. Dan is also here from Texas. Woohoo. Poland, fantastic. Philippines, Vegas. I want to go to Vegas and lose all my money. It's one fun thing to do there. And go see Penn and Teller. I love magic. David from Colombia. Wow, there's just so many coming in. I'm going to try. I'm going. Aman from hello, I guess. Yes. Pune. Vishal from India. Lots of people from India today. Netherlands. Woo. I think we have some coworkers from Netherlands. Argentina. Luciano from Argentina. Tang from Singapore. Potema from Ireland. Someone's from Antarctica. Someone's always from Antarctica. I appreciate it. I assume that you've been here on my streams before and you've noticed that, but that's great. I love it when the people tune in. Hope the penguins are doing well. Norway, Jay from Bangalore. It's from South Africa. Vietnam. Woohoo. India. Mysore? I don't know. Never even heard of that. Every now and then I learn about stuff, like places that exist. Kenya and Nigeria. So great. It's great to see everyone here this morning. I love my backstage people are sending me pronunciation guides for these Pune and Mysore for India. Okay, good. I'm learning new things, everything. London, Atlanta, Georgia, UK, Chile. It's 1 a.m. in Australia. Okay, you must really want to learn about Slackbots because I'm normally passed out at 1 a.m. But thank you for coming. Algeria. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead today and we're going to get in on doing Slackbots. So yes, we have a question that I asked, will it be available afterwards? Yes, all of our tech talks are always available afterwards on the DigitalOcean YouTube channel. So yes, you will be able to see that. So today we're going to build a Python Slackbot. Very simple one. You're going to say flip a coin and it's going to flip a coin for us, but we're going to go through the whole process to show you how to get it set up. But one other thing I'm going to do today is we're going to actually develop it a little bit differently. So the way that Python Slackbots work is they tend to require a web server, something to be able to bring in the request. So the way that the Slackbots work is your Slackbot is hosted on a server or as an app, something of those lines. And whenever a message is sent to your Slackbot and it is sent in the server, the message is then sent to the Slackbot. And then the Slackbot basically reads these messages, determines if the text or whatever was going through is worthy of it, reacting to it. And then if it does that, then it sends it back. So what this means is that you constantly have a web server running with an open API endpoint that was constantly receiving traffic for all the things that are happening inside your Slack service. So we have to run this externally, which means that I have to develop this a little bit differently. And by developing a little bit differently, it's like usually whenever you run code on your web server, like if I'm building a web app on my local machine, I can test it locally on localhost and stuff. But for me to actually be able to test it with Slack, I would then have to if I'm doing it locally, I would have to, punch a hole in my firewall and allow for some port forwarding, which I don't really feel like doing, and it's not very valuable to you because everyone's firewalls are different. So that is one option that you can do, and if you decide to do that when you're doing this, you're going to have to just read the directions of your router at home and do it. Or we're going to do it a different way today, and we're going to kind of pay homage to the very first DigitalOcean tutorial that I ever wrote, which is how to use remote SSH to develop on using VS Code. So I've already set up the connections, but as you can see here, I have a remote SSH config. The host is dev.egger.codes. That's the host name. I have root, and this is my identity file. This is just a normal SSH config. And then what I've done is there's a remote SSH plugin that you can basically install into VS Code. And then what I'm going to do now is we're just going to connect. We're going to connect to a host. I've got my configuration there. It reads it from my SSH configuration. And basically, it's going to SSH in. And now we are running and editing all of our code on this local SSH host, on this development server that is being hosted on a droplet on DigitalOcean. So now we can get going with it. So a quick question, do we need WSL? No, you do not need WSL if you are using whatever you need to use. Just the main issue with developing the Slackbot and actually being able to test it is the network security and like having to poke a hole to the firewall. So I use WSL because that's what I like using. You could easily be using Mac and SSHing in. The main thing is that you're going to test this and you need it to be accessible from the public internet, whether or not you port forward through your firewall on your local host or you send up a droplet and run it on the droplet, which is what I'm going to do. That's the way you'd have to do it. And because I'm trying to find it real quick, let's say Windows. Let me find my original tutorial real quick. So if you are curious in how I'm developing, like using the remote code, then this is the tutorial. This is actually the first tutorial I wrote at DigitalOcean over a year ago now, that tells you how to use this VS Code remotely. So now that we have this here, let's do our typical setup for Python. So we are going to be building this in Python. Python has some really great Slack libraries that make it really easy. I'm going to go ahead and open up a terminal, and I'm just going to SSH in. I could use a terminal here in VS Code, but I've always found that it's a little bit small. It's kind of hard for y'all to see, so we're going to do it like this. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to make a directory called Slackbot. Okay. And then where we go from here is we're just going to create our virtual environment. So Python 3-m venv. This is going to create a virtual environment here for us locally. And then what we do from here is, we do our typical source venv, then activate. So if you don't know what I just did, Python 3-m venv is actually a command, and it stands for create a virtual environment. This venv is what I decided to name it. I could have named this Fluffy Kittens. It wouldn't have mattered. Then the directory here would have been named Fluffy Kittens instead of venv, but I'm lazy and I just named it the same thing. And what this does, this creates an entire source, like entire Python installation. So like inside of here, there's like all of Python, all of our locally running libraries, and this creates a completely isolated environment for us so we can build and not have to worry about polluting other projects, polluting the system Python. So this is just a pretty typical standard practice in Python, is to create a virtual environment per project just to kind of keep all of your dependencies separate from everybody. It just makes for good, clean, reproducible coding. Always recommend using a virtual environment. So from here, we're going to go ahead and pip install Slack client, which is our Slack, one of the Slack APIs. Then we also need the Slack events API, and we need Flask. So these are the three libraries you need. Slack client, which actually allows us to stand up a Slack client, which performs the action. So like sending a message, things like that. This is what allows us to actually perform actions using a Slack bot. The Slack events API is what allows us to ingest events from Slack. So like I said, when all the Slack messages come in and they're ingested by your bot and then sent basically the Slack Events API will ingest the events, and then you will do stuff in response using the Slack client. And then because you could use any web server to do this, because you do have to be basically hosting this as a web server, but I'm going to do it just using Flask. You probably could use it with other ones, but it's pretty straightforward using it Flask. So we're going to pip install this, and it's going to install everything. Ooh. This is interesting. Looks like there's some inconsistencies. Odd. See if it does anything again. We're going to see what happens. If it breaks, we'll fix it. But that was a weird error message basically saying that there were some just inconsistencies in required Python versions, and we will see. Yeah, and it's live. We always find a way. We'll find a way. If I have to back down on versioning, like literally, so the problem here with this is that it could, we could have some conflicts. I'll just bump down versions until I get what I want. So, yeah. It is the joys of live coding, but I do a lot of live coding basically, and it's like when you work. I kind of feel like it's like when you work in like a kitchen or something, and you're like, you grab a scalding hot pan, and you're like, oh, this doesn't hurt at all. It's kind of the same thing when you get in live coding. It's like, oh no, something broke. You just kind of get used to it, and you don't feel the searing pain anymore. I accidentally closed my remote connection host. So let's reconnect to that, and this can go away and this can stay here. So let's go ahead and open a folder whenever you're ready. We'll open up the Slackbot folder, and here we go. So let's go ahead and create a little baby Flask app just to test. Yes, I love this. It's like, do you trust this? Yes, I do. One, you're asking me if I trust code that I wrote. I don't even trust code that I wrote. So that's its own thing, but we'll deal with that later. We're just going to call it app.py. So let's go ahead and just do a quick hello world Flask and make sure everything is running the way we need it to be running. So from Flask, import Flask, app equals Flask dunder name. This is our typical Flask boilerplate. App.route. And the slash like that, def hello world. Actually don't want the extension right now. Thank you though for asking. It's asking me like if I want to do it here, and honestly no. And then if dunder name equals dunder main, you have to type it right. Then app.run host equals 0.0.0. Oh, I need to put that in quotes. 0.0.0.0. So that way we're running it externally, and then the port is equal to 8080. And then I'm trying to use Vim. Happens. So now let's go ahead and do Python app.py. I did not write the Flask thing right, so it's uppercase F in this one. We're basically just getting. We basically Joseph asks if he missed anything important. We basically got our virtual environment set up, and now we're testing our Flask. Okay, so Flask is running. Let's go to dev.egger.codes:8080. And we've got a hello world running. So good. Flask is up and running. We know that whatever that weird error was earlier hasn't affected it. So now we actually have to go do something. Now we actually have to do the Slackbot part. So Slackbots are a little bit odd because you have to actually you have to do a lot of stuff in their UI, and then you write some code, and then you give them the permissions. If y'all missed the first 5 minutes, it's fine. Y'all didn't miss it. I haven't even gotten to the Slack stuff yet, so don't worry about it. You're totally fine. So what we're gonna do now is actually the part where I'm getting into stuff that if you missed it, you might be confused. But Never fear, there is a tutorial that goes through this entire thing, which I'm sure, actually I have right here, because I believe it or not, I have notes for myself, and I honestly read my own tutorials whenever I present these things. But this is the tutorial. If you want to save it for later, I will post this many times throughout the presentation. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and click Create App, and we're going to create a app. Ooh, this is every time they change things on me. I don't know what this is, but we're going to say from scratch because they're constantly changing this on me. We're going to go ahead and call it CoinBot because it's going to flip a coin. And we're going to put it in my personal workspace, which is Gallifrey. Because I'm a Doctor Who nerd. Okay, so now we have our app and we have some basic information set up. This is the default app dashboard where you can change a lot of stuff. The first thing we need to do is we need to configure some permissions. Whoa, they keep changing stuff on me. So go ahead and scroll down to where we get to scopes, and we're going to go to bot token scopes, and we're going to add an OAuth scope, and we want this bot to have the ability to write chats. So basically this bot, you can give it all different types of abilities. So you can it can read calls, write calls, it can view history, it can do commands, group read, it can do a lot of stuff. But what we want it to do is we're basically just going to say, hey bot, flip a coin, and the bot's going to flip a coin for us. So all we really need it to do is to have the ability to write. So we're going to do that. So we've done that. And now what do we do next? Oh, they changed the color. Install to workspace. This button used to be green. If there is one thing that the Slack thing, I'm glad that they're constantly changing things and they're constantly making things better, but it messes with my brain. So yes, we're going to go ahead and send messages to CoinBot. And we're going to click allow. So by doing this, we now have a bot user token, which I'm going to copy, and I'm going to create like a little notepad thing. And this token is something that you're going to want to save. So this is what it's XOXB. I call it my XBob token. I don't know why. This is a token that we're going to need later for it being able to send messages and stuff. So this is going to be it's basically its API token. So we're going to copy that. And then if we go to our Slack, I got to find my Slack thing. And we come over here. No, come here. And we come, okay, things are not dragging and dropping the way they should be today. We have CoinBot. CoinBot just got added. So when we installed our app to our Slack channel, our CoinBot immediately gets added. And that's great. Now we have it here. So let's go ahead and click on it. That's configuration. Nope, nope, nope. Wrong button. I feel like they're constantly changing things about me on this CoinBot. Okay, so you have to right click on it, open app details. It used to open a side panel. We're going to say add this app to a channel, and we're going to say we're going to add it to DigitalOcean Slackbot. So basically, once your bot is in your in your Slack channel or in your Slack workspace, now you have to add it to the specific channels that you want it to be able to listen in. So we're going to add it to DigitalOcean Slackbot. It's just a channel that I've made just for testing this. So we've gone ahead and clicked add to it. And if we do channels and we say DigitalOcean Slackbot, now it says Mason Edgar joined DigitalOcean Slackbot along with CoinBot. So the CoinBot is now sitting here in my channel, and now it's not really doing anything. Nothing's running. Like it's basically like it's asleep at this point. It doesn't have any code behind it. Nothing's running, but now it's ready. Like we're basically ready to go to start writing some stuff. So now we can go back to VS Code. And what we're going to do now is we're going to create our Slackbot. So first thing we have to do is we have to import a couple other things. So we're going to import OS so that way we can read some environment variables. We're going to import random because we're going to flip a coin and we're just going to do some fancy, like we're just going to do some like a random number generator. We're going to say from Slack, import the web client because we need to be able to actually like use the web client to perform actions. And then we're going to say from Slack events API, import the Slack event adapter. Hopefully they haven't changed this on me. I think it exploded, so I'm guessing we're okay. So now we have our Slack event adapter. We still need our Flask app. We're not going to need Hello World anymore. So let's go ahead and create our Slack web client. So Slack web client is equal to a web client. So we're basically creating an instance of the web client class here. And we're going to say the token is equal to os.environ.get Slackbot token. So we're going to create two environment variables when we deploy the Slackbot token and another one that we're going to define later. And basically that XOXB token that we saw earlier in the creation process, this is going to come in and this is where it's going to be used. So we need to do that. We need to go ahead and create our message block. So one thing that you'll have to look into whenever you start writing Slackbots is that Slack takes messages in a very specific way. It creates a very structured JSON that they're very peculiar about. And you have to send it the way that they want it. Otherwise, it doesn't work, and it usually doesn't give you the greatest error messages to why it's not working. So I have found that like when debugging Slackbot issues, like if you're like it's just not working, that usually means there's something wrong with the message block because you don't get great errors when the message block is not correct, or at least you used to not. Or maybe I was just wrong, but that's been my experience. So we're going to say type section. There's different types. There's videos, there's images. You could do so much stuff, but a section basically just means like a little text section or a little section where something is inserted. If you've ever highlighted over things in Slack and you see how like they kind of like highlight when you do your mouse over it, that's a section. It's going to be a section and it's going to have text in it. And the type of it is going to be, we're going to say I don't like how they did this, but MARKDWN, which stands for Markdown. And the text we're going to set to nothing. And basically what we're going to do is whenever we're ready to actually send a text, we're going to come in here into this dictionary and we're going to change this value. And then we're going to send this message block. So we've set up the skeleton of it. And then we're going to just add like a little piece or like the template. And we add a little piece and we send it. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is let's go ahead and create a Slack events adapter. So we haven't really talked much about this yet, but we need to go ahead and create it, and then I'm going to talk about it as we're creating it. So the Slack events adapter is the second part of it. So remember, our Slack web client is what allows us to perform actions. Our Slack events adapter is what allows us to read messages and then basically decode them. It's basically the decoding mechanism because they're going to come in encrypted, and then it sends them in the Slack web client is what performs the action. So the Slack events adapter we need so we can actually listen to everything. So Slack event adapter, and then os.environ.get Slack events token, comma, and then we need two other things. So we're going to say /Slack/events here. So the second parameter is where does this run in our web app? If I just put /, this would run at the index, but this is going to run at dev.egger.codes:80/Slack/events. So this is going to be basically, this is like how you create an API route or a route here in Flask. This is basically creating a route saying that the events adapter endpoint is going to be created right here. And then we have to say app because we have to specify which Flask application we want to create this onto. This is kind of reminds me of using blueprints. So where you can like add in other things. So we're basically adding in this one endpoint to this Flask app. And we're saying in this app at /Slack/events, we're going to host the Slack event adapter, the listener for all of the events that come into our Slackbot. So that's a lot of the just creation stuff for it. Let's go ahead and write the actual code that does the stuff. So we're going to say def message. And then it takes one parameter and it's payload. And this is basically a message or a function that allows us to receive the message with the payload, and then act on it. Now, this is where it matters, is you have to use this decorator, Slack events adapter. So this is the adapter that we created, and then we're going to say .on message. So message is a type of event. So on a message event, we're going to call this function. So this is telling it, hey, all of that stuff, because there's different types of events that come through Slack, all different types of things. So that events adapter not only listens, but it classifies. Was that an event? Was that a message? Was that a, I guess, image? Was that a this or that? So on a message, we're going to call this function every single time. So what we do here now is we're just going to create, a little flip coin bot, and we're going to run it. So from here, we're going to say event equals payload dot get event, and then I typically do like this is, doing it by default, a default value. If there is nothing there, get a default one. Is the full code available after the session? I believe it's already on my GitHub. I will double check because I've got a feeling we're going to end a little bit early. We're actually running ahead of time today. I will double check, but yes, we will of course make this code available for you to run as like in any form of test that you want. And I actually think the code that I'm going to give you is better because I think I commented. So now we have the event. So we have the whole event. Let's get the text out of it because we don't really care if there was a picture or anything. What we're looking for is we're looking for someone to say the phrase flip a coin. If the phrase flip a coin shows up, our Slackbot's going to flip a coin for us. So let's get that text. And now we have it. We have all of the text that was in the message. Let's say if flip a coin is in text.lower. So I immediately lowercase all of the text because I don't care about case. If someone capitalizes that F, I don't care. I want them to do it. You could do text.upper. The whole point of the text.upper versus the text.lower is literally just to put everything in a single in a single case. Now, if I did do text.upper here, it would never work because my text over here is lowercase. So if you were going to do text.upper, then you would have to make all of this uppercase. The case would have to match. Lowercase here, text.lower. Uppercase there, text.upper. So let's go ahead and now we're going to send a message. So the first one thing we have to do is we have to get our channel ID, and we have to event.get channel. So we have to get the channel that came through. So what channel is this coming in on? Like, is our bot in there? If we're in there, then we're going to have to send it. And then let's go ahead and just do randint equals random.rand int 0, 1. Is it a 1? Is it a 0? If the random int is equal to 0, results equals heads. Else results equals tails. And then we're going to say message is equal to, we're going to do an F string here. The result is results. I love F strings. They're so nice. And then what we'll hear is we say message block of text. So if you remember up here, we have our message block, and it's a dictionary, and it's actually a nested dictionary. So there's a text here, and then there's a text block here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say text. We're just going to replace whatever is in here with the current message equals message, and then we have to say x equals channel channel ID blocks list message block. So that's the other thing here is that, so this is just how you have to send stuff via the Slack interface. So this is kind of stuff that I learned from the documentation, hence me teaching it to you. So I learned it via this interface, and then we're going to do it like this, and you'll send it through channel ID blocks, and then you have to put this as a list because you can send more than one block. Yeah, so it does send more than one block. Unfortunately, so Joseph says, just to confirm, Python does not support optional chaining. I'm having a brain moment where I'm really understanding the question. If I think of it before I come back, I'll let you know. But for some reason, my brain's like, what? But we'll see. So And then someone asks, do we really need Flask? Can it be done with a simple script? You need something to be able to take web events. If you have some sort of web browser that you can send this stuff to, then you don't need. But like, as you can see, this Slack events adapter is designed to take a Flask app and do it and set it up. So you need a web event adapter to be able to do this. So let's go ahead and we have this. And then the last thing we have to do is we return Slack web client.chat_post message. And then we're going to unpack X here. And then this will return true or false, whether or not it's sent, but this is what's actually going to send our entire message. Okay. So from here, let's save it. And now we have to go back and do a little bit more in the API before we can move forward. So now that we have this, we need to get the credentials that we need. And I think we go into basic information. Okay, so we have a few questions here. What about using the RTM client? Okay, Slack's RTM client. I think that's deprecated. I think they deprecated the RTM client. Yes, so the RTM client that Dan is asking about is in fact deprecated. It used to be the way of doing it, and it was a lot simpler way of doing it now. And like a lot of the older APIs and a lot of the older tutorials on the internet show you using the RTM. I'm pretty sure the RTM client was completely deprecated. And it's going to be eventually be taken away. And then can we change the second param while initializing this events parameter? What is its purpose? Second param Slack events parameter. Okay, so this is the second parameter, which is the Slack events, is the route in which your app, so your Flask web app, so google.com/slack/events is where it's at. You could change this to whatever you want as long as you set it up properly in this next step that I'm about to show you. Yeah, see, this is the new Slack apps may not use the real-time messaging API, create a classic app and use the V1. Yeah, so RTM was deprecated. I remember running into that issue because whenever I was first learning how to do Slack bots, I was finding all those tutorials and then nothing was working. I was like, what's going on? And then I realized that they had deprecated it. So we're going to go here to this basic information in the Slack API, and we're going to grab our signing secret. So we come here, we click show, and we just copy it. And then we save this somewhere else. I'm going to save it over here. Then from here, we have our signing secret. So we're going to work on running this. So we named we have two environment variables we need to set. So export Slack events token equals this. Export Slack what do we call the other one? Slackbot token equals, and then this is the XOXB one that we get from earlier. Then we go ahead and we hit export on that. So now we have our tokens there, and we've now exported them properly, so that way whenever we run our app, it's going to be ready to run. So let's go ahead and do Python, we'll just do Python app.py. So if we go to a browser, we go to dev. Okay, so if we go to dev.egger.codes:8080/slack/events, we get these are not the Slack bots you were looking for, which is cute in and of its own self. And this is actually really good for us. This means that our Slackbot is running, that that it's ready to go, but you try to do a GET request on it in a website, and that's not the way to do it. So from here, we now have to go back to our Slack API and over here, and we have to add a couple more things. So we need to come to, it's under features, and it says event subscriptions. And now we have to subscribe our bot to some events. So we're going to click on this, and this is where we get our API URL. So dev/slack/events. So let's take this and let's paste it here. And it's verified. So http dev.egger.codes:8080/slack/events, and it verified it. So it has verified that there is a working Slack endpoint here for you to be able to use. Now, the one thing I will say about this, and this is because this is a tech talk and I don't have time to go through all of it, is that we are not, we're running this locally for testing purposes, but we are not running this securely. I would not do this for very long. If I were you, I would, maybe do this to verify you got it up, and then I would secure it either by using certbot and a web server and accurately and properly deploying a Flask application, or using DigitalOcean's app platform, which automatically gives you SSL with a deployed app, and then just waiting on the deployments for there. But right now we are, Wild West. We're letting things not be as secure as they need to be. Let's go ahead and click Save Changes. Did it work? Oh, I didn't do anything. So we have to subscribe it to bot events, and we're going to subscribe it to channels:message.channels. So whenever a message is posted to the channel, we're going to subscribe, and we want the bot to be able to see this and get this sent to it. So apps can subscribe to receive events the bot user has access to. So as we say in our Slack bot, when a message comes in, we get it. This is what actually allows for a message to be sent to our Slack bot. So we go ahead and click Save Changes on this. It's going to tell you we need to reinstall our app because we've changed some of the things. Now it says, will the CoinBot be able to view? Yes, what it'll be able to do, perform actions. It can send messages as CoinBot, and it can view messages and other content in public channels that CoinBot has been added to. So we click Allow. And success, our thing has been set up. So now we go back over here and we say flip a coin, and the result is heads. Our Slack bot has flipped a coin appropriately for us, and we are good to go. And that is, no, we did finish early. We're doing good. That's essentially the tech talk for today. I love it when things go well. It's great. As we saw, that error wasn't a thing. So since we are early, if you have any questions, I'm happy to do it. If you want me to change any code or test anything, I'm happy to do that for a little bit. We are, usually my talks go about an hour. We're at 40 minutes, so I've got some time to hang. But if no one wants to hang, I'll happily leave. Go make breakfast. And I hear dogs outside. I will wait a little bit of time for, while I'm here, let me pull up and let me get some cool links for you. So if you want to do all of this with more in depth, because we only did one function, which was flip a coin. This tutorial creates what I call, it does flip a coin, pick a card, whatever you want to do. So that's the tutorial for that. And then if you want the tutorial, I put it in here earlier. I'm trying to find the link because I'm bad at, no, I can't do that. I'll just get it again. So let's go back up here. We click on my name. Then we do tutorials. Then we go down to the bottom. If you want to be able to do remote Visual Studio Code, then here is that. Okay, so Swan says, it's easier to have that containerized, like one container Flask with UWSL. Yes, 100%. How can we get it? And another with Nginx. So yes, you could do that, I guess. I mean, we technically have the time. I could just deploy this to App Platform. Okay, so Rob asks, does that endpoint receive every message in the Slack channel and check it? Is there a way to just have it check when it's added directly? I actually think so. If I remember correctly, it's been a while. I think it does get every message. You can specifically, there might be a way to, you might be able to do a different event, maybe at DM. But I remember working on this at a previous job, and but I also don't think that they were using the at function. So I would say that I would look into it and see if there's an event for an at DM or a mention. It would be called a mention, and I think you can do it when it's just added. Um, yeah, try that, because I remember working on it at a previous job, but we weren't using the at. It was basically it was a chat ops bot where if you posted a question, the Slack bot basically skimmed everything and tried to answer it for you. It was actually pretty smart, but we didn't make it do the at, and that did get every message, and it was unbelievable how much. So check for at mention events. And if not, then it gets everything. But I think you could do an at mention. Dan asks, oh, does Dio have anything like Lambda? Seems app like this having a server. So Dio does not have anything serverless right now. But yeah, you could run this serverless. Dan says description does say we're going to deploy its app platform. Let's do it. We got 20 minutes. That's why I figured out it was early. It doesn't take much to convince me. So to deploy the app platform, let's do a pip freeze requirements.txt. Okay, so we have that. Let's make a GitHub repository real quick. github.com/MasonEgger. Actually, why am I doing this? Repo.new. Love it. Do Slackbot Tech Talk. And we'll go ahead and click create repository. Okay, so before we move on with this, so it says, I would like to know how would you implement the bot talking directly to user, for example, as if your result is coin. Is there a way to implement that with the event initiator? So in the events, it does say who the person is. So you could pull that out of the events dictionary. So when we did, if you look at the code here, where we pull the event data, there is going to be user data in here. So you could do that if you wanted to. Filter by channel too is nice to reduce the workload. Why am I using remote development? Because Slack has to send us stuff. Like if I was doing this on my local computer, I would have to open up a hole in my firewall on my personal network. It's not terribly difficult to do, but everyone's is different, and it's not a unified way of doing it. For stuff like this, I typically just develop it on a droplet, $5 droplet. It's really easy. Spin it up when you use it, turn it off when you're done, spend it, 20, 30 cents. But that's why I'm doing it, because I need Slackbot has to be able to hit my website, my Flask app. Yes, if you're developing on your local machine, that's exactly what it was. Yes. So let's go ahead and deploy it to app platforms. So let's pull this over here and just get init, get add app.py and requirements.txt, get commit -s-m, init commit. I didn't. What? Oh, I'm on. Ooh, I can't even do SM. Let's not even do that because I'm not on my personal machine. I can't. Oh, but I still have to do get config --global user.email mason@masonegger.com, get config --global user.name Mason. We're having network. Now let's do the get commit m init commit. Get branch -m main, get remote at origin, get at GitHub. Oh, I don't have a key for this. SSH-keygen at ~/.id or .ssh/id_sa.pub. Add this to my stuff. Is there a way we can grab resource links out of a Slack channel, add them to a GitHub, and have that posted push to a web page? Yes, you can do anything. It's basically it's an open canvas. You know, like you have complete control over whatever comes in. So like if you can write the code to do that, then you 100% can have it grab resources and add them to whatever you need it to. I forgot how to add it. Is it under account? Is it security? Oh, where's it at? My profile? No, I thought it was under settings. Developer settings? Wow, I haven't added, there it is, SSH and GPG keys. I haven't added an SSH key to this thing in so long. Like, it's been forever. Gonna add this SSH key. And delete that one. Okay, so now we can finish git remote add origin git at github.com /Mason Egger /do /slackbot tech talk.git git push -u origin main. Yes. Okay. So that's there. Code sitting here on GitHub. Now let's deploy it to that platform. I'm in the wrong account. Now I'm in the right account. Okay, apps. So let's create an app. Let's go from GitHub. do-slackbot tech talk. Let's click next. It's got an app.py and our requirements. I'm pretty sure that's all I need. So we're going to run Python app.py. We do need the environment variables, which I'm going to have to pull from over here because it looks like I closed my notes. So the Slackbot token is this. Make sure you, oh, is that multi-lined? Oh, yuck. Oh, it's just long. Make sure you click encrypt so other people can't come and steal your stuff later. And then the Slack events token. Copy that from here. Encrypt that. Python run.py, port 8080. Next, we don't need a database for this because it's just doing one thing. We're going to click next on this. Let's go ahead and we're going to do a basic app. Click launch basic app. Okay. And now it's going to run. And then once it runs, we get a, I'm at my desk. Once this is up and running, we will get a URL. We will go back to the Slack API, which I have open up here somewhere, right? We'll have to go back here and change this. So this requested URL. So once we get an actual HTTPS secure one. So it's going to take a little bit. So if anyone has any more questions, it takes a little bit for the first deploy of a Python app because it has to create the Docker container and install all of the package requirements and stuff. So who has more questions? Yeah, that's how you would deploy it to App Platform. You would upload it to a GitHub repository, and then as you see, it was relatively straightforward. You just pointed at that. You have to set your environment variables. You could set up your own WSGI for this if you wanted to. Once again, I have another tutorial. I have a tutorial on how to deploy Flask apps to App Platform. Oh, I do have my notepad over here. Okay, I just have so many browser windows open right now. It's just So where's my Flask app one? Here we go. A Flask app using GUnicorn to you can use whatever WSGI you want. I personally prefer GUnicorn sometimes. So that's how that tutorial that I just posted there would be how you would deploy a Python app, a Flask app to DigitalOcean. I also have a Django tutorial if Django is your thing. Can you share some resources for amazing Slackbot examples? I unfortunately don't know any. Honestly, I've never really. Oh, I do know one. I know one. Okay, so Busy Beaver is the Slack bot that is used by the Chicago Python user group, which is I'm pretty sure it is the largest local regional Python user group. And Busy Beaver is their Slack bot that does all of their like Slack integrations and stuff for a very large group. So that's a really good one to look at too. It looks like looks like they've got like some Helm charts in here. So it looks like they're deploying it on Kubernetes, which is pretty funny. Let's view the logs. Let's see where we're at. Are we currently dealing with the Docker container stuff? Yeah, it's uploading the layers. It takes a little bit of time sometimes. My team has a TIL channel in Slack. When resources and articles are shared, will be cool to build something that is really cool. Yeah, that would be really cool because that would be really neat. Wouldn't be very difficult. I mean, at that point you would either just need a database or you would. Well, I guess like if you use like a static site generator for that, then you would, I guess, try to pull a description and a link out of it, and then you could just do like a really quick just append, and then there's probably some Python Git libraries that you could use to push it up, and then you would just do that every time. But yeah, that would be really cool. When you're using the remote development via remote SSH plugin, are you exposing local URL to web for Slack to consume? Yes, I am exposing an open port on a server for Slack to be able to send events to, so that way it can do something. Just imagine this is working. It just takes some time sometimes. Oh, something moved forward. Oh my goodness. Boop, boop, boop. So yeah, if there are any other questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. Yeah, so basically what'll end up happening, and I can kind of show you this on another app. What was this tech talk on? Is this like a OTS? What is this? Let's look at what it is. Some sort of Docker container. var dub dub dub. Was I doing something with? Either way, you will get some sort of like application like this. Like you'll get some sort of like an application, URL like this, and this URL will be secure. Oh, this is my URL redirect. That app automatically redirects. That's just what it does. So you would get this, and you would go back to this page. You're going to change the thing here. Probably will be on just port 80 now, not 8080. /Slack events, and then you would update it, and then you're running it securely, and it's deployed on that platform. Juan is mentioning Flask is a single process. That's why if you're not using something like apps NDO, you need some sort of WSL. Yes. So like if you're running this and you've got 4 friends in a group in a Slack channel, or 20, or actually it depends on how much you're doing. You would probably want to do it. If you're doing this at a company, like a couple hundred employees, and you need the Slack bot to be high performing, yes, a WSL or something like that would be very valuable. The Slack bots that I run in my personal channel, where it's me and like 4 of my friends, I in no way use a WSL because they don't need to be multi-threaded. I don't need multi-processes. We're not hitting it that hard. It runs relatively fast. So it just depends on your use case. But yes, if you're expecting your Slack bot to be high in traffic, then you would need to use a WSL or vertically scale it over here on the app platform side, which you can do. Which I know I lost that. There it is, right? Here it is. I keep losing all of my browser windows. Well, made some progress. We're at 33% now. Looks like it's deploying. Oh, 67%. We're getting there. The front end always takes a bit. Okay, we've got a Slackbot running. So it is getting that. Now we have that. And now we have this. There's nothing going to be there, but if we go to /slack/events, should get that. These are not the Slack bots you're looking for. It's exactly what we're looking. That's exactly the thing we're looking for. We come here, we change this to that. It verifies it, saves changes. And now if we do a flip a coin here, flip a coin, results as heads. If we come to our app platform link, which I put here, yeah. Let's go to the live logs. Actually, I don't know if it's going to log anything because we don't have it printing anything. Where are they? Runtime logs? Yeah, we can see the post events happening. So it happened. This app was the one that responded. I mean, technically it's not even running over here anymore. So the fact that it responded at all means that it's this one that's running. And over here, as I point to a screen that you can't see. The server that you used previously, yes, it's a DigitalOcean droplet. It's just a, like, literally, if I go into my droplets, I think it was over here in my personal account. Yeah, that droplet is right here. Like, this is the one that was running our other, this was the one that I was using for development. Okay, well, that's pretty much the time we have for today. If you have any other questions, we've got about like another minute or two. I'll stick around for another minute or two of questions. If not, I will see you all next time in a little while. I'm still getting all those set up. So thank you everyone for showing up. I hope you enjoyed it today.